Welcome, everyone, to Relight Your Fire, Find Your Passion and Purpose, and Happy New Year. I'm just waiting a minute or two for new people to come. And also, if you'd like to pop in the chat, those of you who are here live, where you're Zooming from and how you found me. I know some of you have worked with me before. Welcome. And if you're watching on recording, welcome. I'm sorry you couldn't be with us live, but I hope you can create the space to really focus on the workshop, to do the exercises. So you'll need a notebook by your side. Those of you who are here live, I suggested you brought a notebook. I suggested a candle and perhaps a photo of you as a child. Now, you don't necessarily need all those things, but if you do have them, that's great. I'm going to begin, as you are all lovely and here on time. I'm going to use a few slides and then I'm going to switch the slides off for a while and then I have a few other slides. So the slides will be in and out, but I'd like you to be able to see me as well. If you've just arrived, please pop in the chat where you're calling in from, zooming in from, and perhaps how you found me. So welcome, everyone. For some housekeeping, I am recording. For those of you who can't join live, if you're here live, you won't be recorded unless you unmute yourself and speak, and then you will be recorded. So if you don't want to be on the recording, keep yourself muted. There is space for questions. You can ask a question in the chat at any point. If it's relevant and doesn't disrupt the flow, I'll answer it immediately. Otherwise, I'll come to it at the end. There will be about 10 minutes at the end as well when I will switch the recording off and we can have a chat and you can ask some more questions. Yeah, so I think that's all the housekeeping, and I'll tell you what we're going to go through in a moment. But I just wanted to introduce myself to those of you who are quite new to me and my journey, and tell you a little bit about why I'm passionate about this topic, and especially at this time of year, which is a good time of year to think about our passion and our purpose. So, as some of you know, I used to work as a political journalist. I used to work in the Houses of Parliament. I worked for Reuters. I had an amazing job and I loved it for many years. But there came a point when I was over it. I felt soul dead inside. I felt dissatisfied. I felt like there was something more. Let me just make sure everyone's muted. Oops, too many buttons. Yeah, I felt like something was missing, and I was tired of working really hard for someone else, giving my all to a big corporation, and I was tired of suppressing my true self. And I know this resonates with you, this idea, well, with some of you, this idea of suppression of our true selves, of our gifts, of our talents, of our voice, of our feelings. And for me, suppression leads to depression. There are lots of different forms of depression. Of course, there is clinical depression. There are other ways that we get depressed. But for me, suppression of myself, my gifts, my talents, who I am, who I want to be, my heart's desires, my dreams, my hopes, my voice, that leads to depression. And that's what happened to me in that career. And, I work with many high achieving, successful women who who have achieved a lot in their lives, but maybe get to midlife, which is what happened to me. Midlife is a really broad range, but we get to at some point in our midlife, anywhere from 30s to 50s, and we feel, what are we doing here? Why have I been working so hard for somebody else? And why aren't I honoring my dreams? And what about that dream I had? What about that dream I had? What about that talent I've got? What about that gift that I have? What about that desire I have to make a difference or to support people or to help people? Um, so, in my case, I felt trapped. I felt trapped by a mortgage. I felt trapped by my finances, but I knew I had to change. And in my case, I hit rock bottom. I burnt out. I got signed off work and I had no choice but to leave. And after I left, I knew there was something else, but I didn't know what it was. And this is something I would love to, yeah, just to be clear about. Sometimes we don't know what our fire is until we have some time and space in our lives. So you don't need absolute clarity to move forwards. You just need some courage and to give it a go and to give something a go. So I didn't have clarity. It took me a few years of fumbling around in the dark to find my fire, to find what lit me up. And we'll come to this, but what often happens is we connect with a dream or an activity or something that we loved to do as a child. And for me, it was about writing and creativity. So when I reconnected with my creativity and started to write from the heart, my truth, that's when I was able to find my path, find my fire, and move forwards. Um, and for me, it came from a real place of hunger, of determination, of I've always been really determined. And I think that comes from my childhood. It comes from survival. It comes from needing to survive. And I know some of you quite well, and I know some of your histories and your childhoods, and I know you have that in you too, that survival, um, that survival desire. We all have the survival desire, but things that have happened to you have made you incredibly determined. But on top of that, or alongside that, we also have the fears and the obstacles, and I will come to those. But in my case, I found my way, and those of you who know me well, my story involves um, reconnecting with my creativity, reconnecting with my gifts, wanting to be of service, wanting to find purpose in my pain, connecting with my passions, and my story also involves changing my career and changing my life and finding love. Because in my previous space as a news journalist, I was exhausted, I was burnt out, I was stressed. I didn't have time for myself, I didn't have time to love myself, and I didn't have time to find love. And so when I found my fire and reconnected with my fire and started to do the things that I was truly passionate about and were more authentic to me, everything changed. I changed where I lived. I moved to the beach. I wrote a book, How to Fall in Love. I ran retreats. I run retreats. I speak. I've done a TEDx talk. I've finished my novel, very close to finishing my novel. And I got married. Um, so for me, um, changing, finding my fire and changing my career was so important to my entire life and to finding love. And I know I work with some of you in terms of finding a healthy relationship and finding love. And we don't have to be in our new career or doing that passionate thing. We don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We don't have to quit. We don't have to start again. But many of us, if you're feeling suppressed and a little bit depressed or not fulfilled or empty, or there's a real yearning and desire, then we need to follow that. We need to follow that. And from my experience, everything changes when we do that. So this is what we'll cover today. And I'm going to switch the slides off in a moment, and we're going to do a little exercise. Why it's vital to keep the fire lit, how to get clarity on your dreams or on your fire. What is my fire? What stops you from moving forwards? How to walk towards your fears, even if you're afraid, how to walk towards them. Affirmations for success and actions to back up those affirmations. And we'll cover lots of other things, but these are the main points. So I'm going to switch off the sharing of my screen for now. I'm just wondering why. Can you see me? Can everyone see me okay? I think so. I can't see myself, which is strange. I wasn't sharing my screen. Really? Okay, thank you. No problem if I wasn't sharing my screen. I thought I was. Okay, I'll carry on. Did anyone see my screen just while it was up before? Did anyone see the pictures? Okay, some people saw the pictures. Okay, thank you. So you may have a candle by your side, you may not, but I just want to do a little exercise. So I have a candle here, and I'm going to light it. Hopefully not cause any. So once this gets going, I think you can see the candle. So it is in a pot. But we all have this inside of us. And if you have a candle by your side, feel free to light your candle and have a look at the flame. We all have this light inside of us. And what happens when we don't give it space or don't give it the air that it needs to burn, when we don't give it the fuel that it needs to burn, so it dims. So I'm going to dim my candle. And this is when we feel suppressed. This is when we feel depressed sometimes. This is when we feel lethargic or empty or what's the point? And I've been in those places myself. And if we totally block the flame, like if we don't feed it, then it will go out. Our light will go out. And it will emit lots of smoke while it does so. But we can light our fire again. Now, if you have a candle by your side, I'd love you to light it and just to look at the flame, because we're going to do a short, I'll call it meditation, contemplation. Or you can look at my flame here. But as you look at the flame, I want you to reflect on what this represents to you. What is your burning desire? What is your fire? What is burning inside of you? If you got to the end of this year and we were meeting on the 5th of January, 2026, What would be your biggest regret if you didn't follow through on something? What would cause you pain if you hadn't done it? Now, I'd love you to think about this, those of you who are here live. Just think about this for a few minutes. You could jot something down in your journal, or you can pop something in the chat. I'd love you to write in the chat because when you write in the chat, you are witnessed. You are writing down your burning desire, your dream, your fire. You are witnessed, which is really powerful. It's really powerful to be seen. You are stating your dream, your desire. You're writing it down. You're inspiring others because we see your hunger and your determination and your fire. So if you think about this for a few moments, and if you're watching on recording, make sure you give this a few minutes. What is that thing? What is that fire? What would you be really sad if you neglected? What dream or hope are you currently suppressing? So this is about getting clarity, because without clarity, we don't know what to prioritize. And with so many things and demands and activities pressing on our time, it's very hard to prioritize ourselves. It's especially hard to prioritize ourselves if we have had challenging childhoods, if we weren't prioritized, if our needs didn't matter, if our hopes and dreams weren't important to those who were supposed to be caring for us. So it's hard to prioritize ourselves. It's hard to prioritize our dreams. So the first thing we need is clarity. So hopefully you all have something written down. And if you'd like to, thank you for to those who shared in the chat. If you'd like to share in the chat, please do so. You can also continue this after the workshop. You can take your candle. You can take your candle out every morning or every evening, and you can connect with your fire. And it might not just be one fire. You know, I have a number of fires. I would say if I hadn't fully completed and published my novel, or be in the process of publishing my novel by this time next year, I would know that I hadn't prioritized my dreams, because that's entirely achievable. So that was my main fire right now, and my other fires are around this work, using my voice, turning my pain into passion, supporting people, supporting women in midlife, supporting women without children who are looking to find a partner and build a wonderful life, supporting people to find their fire. So I have a few fires. So you can have more than one. But in this busy life, with so many demands on our time, especially if you have a brain like mine, which is ADHD brain and very easily distracted and also wants to do all the things at once and has loads of ideas all the time. So we need to know our priorities. So I'm just going to switch out the candle. Actually, I'm going to leave it here burning. Might need it again. Just to see what's in the chat. Creativity seems to be a theme. Finding secure love, finding love, speaking my truth, asserting boundaries. So there's lots of dreams there. Invite someone else in. So if you're clear on your priority, if you're not clear, that's fine too. Maybe you could put that in the chat. Maybe you've got too many ideas or you don't know your priority. But you can, you know, if you're still struggling to know what your priority is, that's fine. As I said, it took me it took me to go through burnout and breakdown and a few years of trying to earn money with my writing before I got angry, got frustrated, got determined, and wrote my blog and started writing my book and doing my coaching work. So one of the things that helps us to know our priorities or our fire, I'm going to mention two things. One is something that you get angry about or feel hungry about when you see other people doing things. So for me, that's writing books, publishing books, coaching, speaking, being seen, being heard. So I feel like I want that. And it's not so much a negative envy. It's because it taps into my truth of who I am and who I want to be and what I want to be doing. So often that is a clue. When you see other people doing things and you feel angry or you feel frustrated or you feel hungry and you want that for yourself and you're tired of not achieving that yourself, that is a really good clue. And another clue is often connected to our childhoods. So I have a few photos here of myself as a young girl, and you might have a couple of pictures there, or you might be able to access them later. And it's often our dreams, our desires, often connected to our childhoods. So for me, writing, creativity, and then that kind of got suppressed with journalism, which was very structured. I didn't have the courage and the confidence to go into creative writing, so I went into journalism. So often our creativity or whatever it is that we want to be doing gets suppressed, or we have negative experiences when we're doing that thing. So I remember telling a joke in company, in family, and being laughed at, being mocked, being ridiculed. I remember speaking my truth to a parent spontaneously, saying what was on my heart and being shouted at and shut down. So what we learn in those experiences is, you know, that it's not safe to be seen, it's not safe to speak, it's not safe to be heard. I need to stay small, stay stuck, stay quiet, stay under the radar. Or perhaps I need to follow the path of security. I need to do the job that my parents want me to do. Um, so we don't feel safe enough to break out of the mold. And that was definitely my case. You know, I was in a secure, well-paid job with a pension, and breaking out of that takes a lot of courage. I didn't have a choice. I was burnt out. I was broken down. Um, so, connecting with the things that we loved to do as a child, or where we felt free, where we felt um, at ease, where we felt at peace, where we felt alive. So, writing, reading, singing, exercise, all those things was so important for me. Um, so, I'm just going to share my slides again. So, we've talked about clarity, and hopefully, you're clear on the burning desire or your goals or your dreams. But this is what comes up next, the obstacles. So I'd love you to just brainstorm with yourself and also in the chat. What are, what stops you? What stops you from following that fire? What stops you from doing your creativity or following that dream or moving forwards with your aspirations and ambitions in life? I've put a few ideas on the screen, but I'd love to hear yours, or you can elaborate on what I've written. So I have procrastination, perfectionism, time, money, fear. I'm really going to delve into fear in a moment and into procrastination. But if you just write in the chat, again, remember when you write in the chat, you connect with each other, you inspire each other, you support each other, and you feel less alone. Um, so what stops you? Can you hear me now? I think you can hear me now. Sorry. Sorry, I muted my microphone for a moment. You can all hear me now, I think. Yeah. Um, so thank you so much for sharing those comments. I find them really moving to read. because I so relate to them all. And I know it's really heartfelt what you've shared: procrastination, fear, finances, fear, procrastination. Will I be good enough? It's too late. No energy, feeling alone, not feeling good enough, too old, on your own in a demanding job. Yeah. So alone without support. Um, Finances are challenging. And, as I said, I had I had all these questions. So when I burnt out in my job as a Reuters journalist, I was single, I was living alone. My mortgage was over £1,000 a month, and I had no parental support whatsoever, and no idea at all how I was going to leave that job. But I had the gift of desperation. I had burnout, I had breakdown, I had depression. I had the gift of desperation. And I think the first thing we want to do, which is why it's brilliant that you're here watching this and that you're writing and sharing if you're here live, the first thing we want to do is acknowledge that we want to change and that we feel stuck or we feel trapped, and we want to name what's blocking us, which is what you're doing here. And that's what I did. And, I have to say, you know, it was a bit of a miracle, and I don't know how it happened, but I believe it started with me really getting clear on the fact that I needed to transform and change, and I couldn't carry on as I was carrying on. So I did have a voluntary redundancy offer that I was able to take so I could leave with money. But I have to say, and this is true today, 15 years on or whatever it is, that my financial insecurity is completely unrelated to how much money I have in the bank. And I know that'll be true for some of you too. So when I left my Reuters job, I was given a really healthy redundancy package. Within days, I was panicking about how to earn money, despite having thousands of pounds in the bank. And what that tells me is that it doesn't matter how much money I have in the bank. My financial insecurity is on the inside, and it will always be there. And that's what I need to deal with. I need to deal with the inner financial security, which comes from my childhood, which comes from divorced parents, from mum losing a lot of money, from us moving house a lot, from feeling unsupported, from not having much money when we were growing up. It comes from that place. And I've got this idea in my mind that I'll end up on the streets. And it doesn't matter how much I have in the bank. So we want to work on a different level. There are practical considerations. We do want to we do want to get clarity on our finances. And that's one action you might want to take. Clarity. Are you clear on your incomings and your outgoings? Are you clear on how much you spend and how much you earn? Do you have a little savings pot of £1 a month labeled dream or creativity or change or future? Do you have, are you sort of putting it out there to the world, to the universe? Are you putting it out there that you're taking care of your finances, your house is in order, and you are saving towards another dream? Because for me, the financial insecurity is on a spiritual plane, not on a practical plane. We can do the practical things and they're important, but we need to accept that we might never feel like there's enough money. And definitely in my experience, it was through really taking a massive leap of faith, leaving a job, leaving security, and changing everything. It was only then that I managed to learn to love myself, value myself, honor myself, do the things I loved, bring some spark back into my life, bring some fire into my life, clear the decks, find love, buy a house with a man, get married, and now my expenses are so much lower than they were as a single woman. And I know that doesn't happen overnight, and that's not everybody's goal or dream, or maybe you're already in a relationship. But for those of you who are alone, I think we have to be careful of black and white thinking, because black and white thinking often comes from our early life and our childhood wounds and from trauma. So we want to think about all the shades of grey. And that's why we want to take little steps. So you put some money in a savings pot towards your new career. One of my other career ideas is to be a celebrant, a wedding celebrant, which would fit very well with my love coaching. And I have a pot in my bank account to save up for the training celebrancy. I think I've got about £5 in it currently, but I'm putting in £1 a month. So just having that dream and feeding it rather than abandoning it is really important. So yeah, someone says they picked up financial insecurity in adulthood due to marital economic abuse. Have given myself financial education. Brilliant. Tried to be very proactive with financial management. That's brilliant. And that is something that we can take care of. So just talking about the money obstacle, I want to talk about procrastination, because again, I try to talk on a deeper plane. So there'll be loads of tools out there on the internet that you can find about how not to procrastinate. I want to go deeper than that. So knowing our priority is vital. Doing the most difficult thing first, or doing the dream thing first. So, we have to be careful, especially if you're a bit of a workaholic like me. We have to be careful not to burn out, push ourselves, spend the whole day working. But can you make space for your dream at the start of your day or in your day? So for my novel, I write my novel first thing in the morning. And I try and do that before the phone goes on, before the emails go on, before anything else happens. Because once those things go on, I am at the mercy of other people's requirements of me, especially if you're employed. But as soon as the emails go on, as soon as WhatsApp goes on, there's distractions. There are people wanting me, wanting my time, asking questions. So I try to prioritize most of my mornings for my novel writing. And I have 100,000 words of a novel written, and it's going to an agent this month. And I have done that this year, the year just gone. So that's worked. That's worked for me. And it could have worked better. I could have been more boundaried and more had better priorities on other days, but that has worked. So making space for your dream is so important. Doing the most difficult thing first. The thing that really challenges you. I mean, my novel isn't the most difficult thing. I absolutely love it. It is my dream. But on another day, say, for example, if I'm working on my business and I want to try and get an article in the press, that is a difficult thing. That pitching to the Guardian, for me, even though I'm a journalist, is a difficult thing. So I try and do that first before the easy things. And that's kind of the adult in me showing up. So if you follow my work, I talk about the inner child, I talk about the loving parent and the adult, and we want to try and get in touch with the adult, because the child in us will distract, will avoid, will procrastinate, shiny new objects, looking all over the place, finding things. Um, but the adult in us will take responsibility for our dreams and will be able to do the most difficult thing first. The reward comes later. The reward comes later. And I won't go into this too far right now, but self-awareness is really important. Be aware of your brain and how it works. So I had an ADHD diagnosis last year. I am learning about my brain, about dopamine, about my tendency to distract, about my adrenaline addiction. So learn about yourself, learn about your brain. I need, in order to write my novel, I need everything switched off. Otherwise, I will be distracted. And before I know it, I will be down a rabbit hole, down an internet rabbit hole. And that's kind of what children do, isn't it? That's what young people do. They don't have the boundaries. So we need to set the boundaries for ourselves. So for the first hour or two, well, for the first 10 minutes of my morning, I'm going to meditate or journal about my dreams or exercise or get outdoors. Priority, connection to self, connection to feelings, connection to dreams. For the next chunk of my morning, maybe half an hour, I'm going to take one little action on my fire, on my dream. So, but you can set up your day as obviously as works for you. Like if you had different priorities, or if you're caring for children, or if you're caring for elderly people, or if your job needs you to be there at 7 a.m., you set things up for you. But remember how you will feel in 12 months' time if you take a little step every day or every week towards your dream versus if you abandon it. Just gonna, I'm not sure if anything changed for you then, but I just pinned myself as my video because someone else's video was the main thing. Okay. Just going a little bit deeper on procrastination. Let me just find my note. So, some of you have done coaching with me. Some of you know my work. Some of you know my book, How to Fall in Love, which is behind me. The work I do goes deep, and I do explore our childhoods and our traumas and the things that block us from moving forwards. And on procrastination, I want to mention two things that are a little bit deeper. So if we were abandoned or neglected when we were young, and that can include, emotional abandonment, emotional neglect. Our needs weren't met. We didn't feel seen or heard. So if that happened, we will have the tendency to abandon ourselves. Therefore, we will have the tendency to abandon our dreams and our goals and the things that are important to us. So we want to be really aware of that. We want to be aware that one of the reasons we struggle to follow through on our dreams is because we're doing to ourselves what was done to us. I was abandoned. I was neglected. I'm going to do the same to myself. That is what happens unless we intervene and get all the support we need and get all the resources we need and heal our wounds and take care of the grown-up stuff, soothe the child within. So be aware that you may be abandoning yourself because you were abandoned, but you can change that. You can intervene. You can rewrite your story. You may not be prioritizing your needs and wants because your needs and wants weren't prioritized. You may have felt that you didn't matter, that your needs didn't matter. So one of the reasons we procrastinate is because we don't value ourselves, we don't value our needs, we don't think we matter. Maybe we have a sense of hopelessness. There's no point. What's the point? I'm too old. It's not going to work. And that sense of hopelessness may be rooted in a similar feeling from your childhood. There's no point. Nothing's going to change. And one thing that we're doing when we procrastinate is we are still waiting and hoping for a grown-up to come and do it for us. So I've had to do a lot of work on this. Even though both my parents have passed away, even though my parents didn't support me financially or support my dreams, or the little girl in me is still waiting for the grown-ups to come and do the job they were supposed to do. And I have this hope, which is a bit of a drug, so I'll call it hopium. I have this hope that they will come, finally, the grown-up will come and do it for me. And I won't have to do it myself. And if you think that of that mindset, if I'm in that mindset of, oh, grown up, will you just come and do it for me? I don't want to do it myself. Then I'm not going to prioritize my dreams. I'm not going to do the hard work. I'm not going to do the grown up stuff. So we need to break that belief, let go of that belief that the grown up's going to come. And you will all be at different stages with this. Some of you will have let go of it already, which is brilliant. Some of you won't be aware that you have that belief. And I hope this helps to bring a bit of awareness. Some of you will be on the way. It requires some grieving. It requires some letting go. It requires some acceptance of the past, that we can't change the past. That ship has sailed. And then it requires us to do the grown-up actions, to be the adult in our own lives, to show up for ourselves. There's another reason why we might procrastinate, which is this is similar to what I've just said, but a little bit different. We might feel that we deserve a carefree life because we deserved a carefree childhood. So I have this too. I didn't have a carefree childhood. I played out, I did all those things, but I had this sense of responsibility towards my mum, who was an alcoholic with, well, she had a drinking. Yeah, she had a problem with alcohol. It's not really fair of me to label her because she hasn't labeled herself. She had problems with alcohol and depression and food and relationships, and she was unhappy. And I didn't have a carefree life. And I get to adulthood and I'm like still waiting for my carefree life. Where's my carefree life? So why do I have to do the hard stuff? So when I first started writing, after leaving Reuters, I started writing a book, and I got an agent, and that agent sent the book proposal, which was just a proposal that only had a chapter, sent it to the publishers. They said no. But I see now that I didn't want to write the book. I just wanted the book deal. I didn't want to do the hard work. I just wanted the book deal. I wanted the book in the window of Waterstones. I didn't want to have to do the footwork. because I'm still waiting for a carefree life. Give me my carefree life that I deserved when I was a child. Um, and I have to let go of that. That ship has sailed. My carefree life has sailed. I have to be the adult in my life. And I have been the adult in terms of my novel. I have written it a lot of days last year, and I have got to 100,000 words, and I'm in touch with an agent. So that is me accepting that I can't have a carefree life anymore. You know, I can create moments of carefreeness in my life. I can have structure. I can have boundaries. I can earn my money, track my money, book a holiday, book something wonderful to do with my time, feed myself, meet my needs, have fun, have joy. I can have that, but I can't have that all the time. And I can't get to my dream without doing the footwork. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a hard slog. You know, I am a little bit, have been addicted to the hard slog. It doesn't have to be. I think if we can connect to our inner courage, our inner strength, if we can get the right support, if we can trust, if we can be guided, if we can connect spiritually, um, it doesn't have to be a hard slog. I don't think it has to be a hard slog. Um, I'll just see what's in the chat. So it's hard when some people do seem to have something of a carefree life. Yeah, maybe not exactly carefree, but their lives from the outside seem easier. I think that some people do have easier lives. They might have had brilliant parenting. They might have formed very healthy relationships early on in life. They might have money coming from somewhere else. Other people do have a carefree life, and I suppose that's what that's what you know, as well as feeling our sadness about that, our sadness for ourselves about the lives that we might have had that might have been more difficult. That's about acceptance, and it's about creating as much carefreeness as we can in our lives through structure and grown-up stuff and actions and courage and accountability so that we can give some of that to ourselves. But I always remember, I think it was an ex-boyfriend of mine always said, life isn't fair. Life isn't fair. Whoever told us life was fair isn't telling us the truth. Yeah, people who had their needs and wants met in childhood do often seem happier and more fulfilled. Yeah, not always, but that is going to be more true because their needs and wants were met. They felt yeah, they were able to transition into adulthood, to meeting their own needs and wants, to not abandoning themselves. So they had the template, and the template then applied to their lives. And what we need to do, if we didn't have the template and we didn't transition with all that we needed, we need to start giving that to ourselves and create the template for ourselves. So I've just talked about procrastination and this idea of waiting for the parent to come and do their job and desperately wanting a carefree life. So therefore resenting the work we have to do. And we might not be conscious. The thing is, a lot of these things are in our subconscious. So I can think of perfectly legitimate reasons to distract or procrastinate or not do this or not do that or abandon my dreams. They seem to be really, really legitimate. Or someone needs me, or I have to do this, or I haven't got time, or money. That they're all reasonable. But it's what we really want to get to is the stuff in the subconscious. Um, the stuff the stuff in the subconscious that we might not be aware of. Um, Somebody says they heard a good phrase, failure to launch. Yeah. So I think if we feel resentful or sad when we see that other people have easier lives, we want to soothe those feelings. We want to take care of the sadness that we feel because of the lives that we have had. And then we want to move forwards with acceptance and with courage. Um, yeah. So if you're waiting for the parent to come, you want to show up and be that parent to yourself. If you feel that this idea of the carefree life that you didn't have, if that resonates with you, again, do some grieving around the life that you didn't have. I did this the other day. I was walking around the park and I was saying to myself, I didn't have a carefree childhood. And I was feeling the sadness. I didn't have a carefree childhood. I didn't have a carefree childhood. That's not fair. So feel it. Um, because the resentment often goes towards us. It goes inwards. We harm ourselves with it. I used to overeat on resentment, overwork on resentment. So anger and grief are very closely aligned. So try and get in touch with the sadness. Try and get in touch with the grief. Try and get in touch with the feelings. And you can not necessarily sail through life or sail off into the distance, but you can absolutely create a life where you have joy, where you fulfill your passions, where you feel ease, where you feel love. You can do that. You can do that. And it might not happen overnight, but you can do that. So just going back to, let me just see, where am I? So I just want to, how do we know that we are overworking from or through resentment? That's a good question. How do we know that we are overworking through because of our resentments? I think, if I think about, I used to overeat on my resentment. So I would turn my anger inwards and I would harm myself. And overworking is the same. We are harming ourselves. We are self-harming. So we want to, if you can start to step away from that, if you can work a little bit less, if you can put down the work a little bit earlier, then you can allow some feelings to come to the surface. And what that will be grief. It will be anger. It will be grief. It will be loss. But the overworking is running away from it. And it's a pattern and we get into it and I can get into it, but it's running away from our feelings and it's taking us away from being present to our reality. Now, if you imagine a child who's having a really tough time experiencing trauma or difficult emotions, what they are going to want to do is escape their reality and feel something else, do something else. And so when I don't want to feel my feelings, I will distract. I will get busy with my work. I will overeat. I will over scroll. I will overwork, So we want to escape the present. And so when we bring ourselves back into the present moment, which we do through meditation, through journaling, through sharing, through breathing, we can connect with our feelings. What's really going on for me? What's really going on for me? I hope that answers your question. I can also come back to that if I think of any other ideas. So I'm just going to go back here. So procrastination, perfectionism is another side. It's got to be perfect, otherwise I won't do it. So I would say whatever it is that you want to do, your dream, your fire, don't wait until you've got all your ducks in a row. Don't wait till it's perfect. Now, you might not want to do things quite like I do them, which is has been a little bit by the seat of my pants. The first retreat I ran, I said, I want to run a retreat. And I just ran a retreat and I managed to fill the retreat. Um, and I managed to make a little bit of money on the retreat. But it was a bit, if you think about the adrenaline and the ADHD brain, it wasn't all that well planned. It went brilliantly. But for me, in terms of taking care of myself and my energy, it was a bit hectic. So you might want to plan a little bit more than I plan, but don't wait until things are perfect. Don't wait until you have all your ducks in a row because it won't happen, because perfectionism doesn't exist. And it's another way of managing our fear, avoiding. We've talked a little bit about time, about carving out the time for the stuff that really matters. And you might need to say no to people. You might need to have better boundaries. Um, we've talked about money. Um, you know, just think about your financial insecurity. Is it at your root? Is it at your core? Will more money really make a difference? I'm not talking about quitting your job, um, but when we make shifts, things shift around us. So I made a major shift, and that allowed love into my life, and that allowed me to split my finances with someone, share my costs with someone. Um, and I want to talk about fear because fear came up quite a lot in your comments. So I have a few acronyms here. Um, so fear, false evidence appearing real. You might have heard some of these. Um, so false evidence appearing real. So I was thinking about this. This is quite a common acronym, but I was thinking about this, and it's not necessarily in our cases, it might not be false evidence. So you might have had evidence in your past that if you spoke your truth, it wouldn't be welcome. I certainly had that. If you tried to tell a joke in front of a family member, they would laugh at you. I had that. You might have put some work out into the world and been criticized or judged. So you might have some evidence, but a lot of that evidence will come from your childhood, will come from your early life, and it will be stored as a wound, as a trauma wound. And what happens is when we enter into a situation in the present day that reminds us of the past, we will be triggered and we'll be triggered back into that fear or that trauma. So, for example, if I think that my visibility isn't welcome in the world because when I was younger, my visibility wasn't welcome, my voice being seen, being successful, it wasn't welcome, it didn't feel safe. So I carry that with me. And that will feed my procrastination. It will feed my avoidance of my dreams. And I'll find all manner of reasons not to follow through because my subconscious is telling me it's not safe. So, for example, my novel, I have finished it, but it needs some more work. I could quite easily spend the next 6 months not sending it to the agent. Now, part of me could say, well, that's logical. It needs fixing up. But actually, my subconscious is so terrified of repeating my past that I will be judged and criticized. So I'm going to avoid doing that. But it is false evidence appearing real because we can approach our fears not as a wounded child, not as an unsupported child, not as a vulnerable child. We can approach our fears today as a healthy adult with awareness, with our eyes wide open, ideally with support, with help around us. So we can approach our fears in a different condition to how we first approach them. So another an acronym, acronym or another way of saying fear, flip, or you can use a different word ending in K, flip everything and run. So let's run. And running can look like distraction. It can look like busyness. It can look like, oh, I've really got to go and help this person, or I really must answer this email. You know, it can look like running around with your hair on fire. So, what does fear look like to you? And the place we want to be is face everything and recover. So, we want to face everything and recover. So, what would that look like to you? And you might want to think about this, but if you pop in the chat, what would it look like to you to face everything and recover? What would you do? What would you stop doing? That's actually just as important as what you would do. What would you stop doing? I'm just thinking about what I would do or I would stop doing. I would switch WhatsApp off for quite a lot of my day. I get, you know, somebody sends you a WhatsApp message, you answer it, your mind is distracted. I would definitely do that. I would absolutely, and I do this quite a lot, but I would absolutely make sure that the first half an hour of my day is dedicated to my connection with myself, my meditation, my journaling, outdoors, whatever it is. I would make sure that that happens religiously because every now and then I might open an email or open a WhatsApp. So I would do that. I would ask for help. I would get the help I need. I would value myself more. So what would it look like to you to face everything and recover? What would you do and what would you stop doing? Stop wasting time. Stop beating myself up about the past. Yeah, this would free up cognitive space. Absolutely. Um, so I'm going to do a little, if you carry on sharing, I'm just going to stop sharing the slides. If you carry on sharing in the chat, anything that resonates. But I do this exercise a little bit on my, when I've run my retreats. So here's my flame. And if you have a flame, I want you to look at it. I believe we need to walk towards the fire. So here's the fire. The fire is the thing that burnt me when I was young. So for me, being seen, being visible, I got burnt. Being successful, being really good at school, I got burnt because some people didn't like that. So my fire, I have lots of different fires, but just to use this as an example, my fire is, you know, being seen, being visible. So I need to walk towards that because that is how I heal. I need to walk towards the fire, but in a completely different condition to how I first experienced it. So I need to walk towards the fire, not as a vulnerable child, but as a healthy adult with support, with healthy boundaries, with lots of healing, with having done lots of grief work, having processed my pain, so that when my novel goes out into the world and there's a really bad review on Amazon that says she doesn't know how to write, that doesn't totally floor me, that doesn't send me back into binge eating, that I am able to hold myself and breathe and say, oh, somebody's opinion, but look at all these other opinions. So we want to walk towards the fire in a completely different condition to how we first got burnt. So what is that thing for you? What is the thing you want to walk towards? Is it visibility? Is it creativity? Is it inventing something? Is it writing something? Is it walking? And I talk about this in my relationship coaching as well. That is, the fire is the hurt that you first experienced in relationships. We want to walk towards it, not avoid it, but walk towards the risk. Walk towards the risk, but in a completely different condition to how we first walked towards that risk. I hope that makes sense. So what do you need to walk towards? What's the thing that scares you, but that could heal you? So I know that, doing this work, being seen, being visible, coaching, running retreats, writing my novel, it's scary. I am exposed to potential criticism. I have to take risks, but I can do it in a completely different condition to how I first did so. Supported, adult. So just seeing a few do's and don'ts. Reread goals and dreams every morning. Identify one action to move forwards. Meditate, self-care. Stop worrying about others, what they're doing or not, and what they're saying. Stop doom scrolling. Use evenings at home differently. Less TV. Yeah. More consistent with exercise. Lesson planning for future me. Plan what I actually want. Stop self-soothing through food. Yeah, food is really hard. It's a really hard one. We have to eat. It's a really hard one to manage. Stop distracting. So we want to face everything and recover. And it's going to look different for everyone. And we're going to need courage. So where do you get your courage? Where do you find your courage? I find my courage through others, being inspired by other people taking scary actions. My clients inspire me all the time, who are moving forwards and taking courageous actions, walking through their fears. I find my courage at the beach, swimming in the sea. Where do you find your courage? Through prayer, through journaling, through connecting with, that fierce, determined inner child. Like, we have got this far. Some of us didn't have the best childhoods. We have got this far. We have survived. We are determined. Now we want to get over this hurdle, this maybe not final, but one of these final hurdles that's blocking us from living freely and feeling totally fulfilled. We want to get over this hurdle. So where do you find your courage? Where do you find your courage? How can you tap into your courage? And this is what we're going to need to do. And I spoke about this earlier, and you might have a photo of yourself as a child, and you might want to look at a photo of yourself as a child every day. So you want to reparent yourself because it's the inner child who feels afraid, who feels scared, who feels like that it's dangerous to be seen, that it's unsafe to take a risk. It's the inner child who has some financial security, insecurity. So you're going to want to reparent yourself in so many ways. So that's the self-care, that's the self-nourishment, that's the boundaries around phone, around food, around relationships, around TV. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Oh my gosh, I'm so imperfect. My Christmas was very imperfect around some of the things that I don't want to be doing anymore. But we can show ourselves compassion and love and um yeah, we can show ourselves grace. And another place you might get your courage is through others. And this is a photo of some women who came on one of my retreats in Turkey. And, what a gift it was to create that for them, and how much courage I needed to create that for them, and how much they supported each other. And this is why I work in groups with my love coaching, because people support each other. So where do you get your support? Um, so I just want to, before I ask you to think about a few things, just going to stop sharing again. I want to talk about discomfort. Um, there's that comment there at the end, courage from cold water swimming. I also do cold water swimming. Um, and what is wonderful about that, or anything similar, I did take a cold shower this afternoon before this workshop, not only because it wakes me up, but because it's uncomfortable. And we need to take uncomfortable actions in our best interests. So write that down. Well, you don't have to write it down, but just keep it in mind. You want to be taking pretty much on a daily basis uncomfortable actions in your best interests. That could be a conversation, a phone call, an email, switching the phone off, saying no, switching the TV off, going to bed early, um, moving out of your comfort zone, asking for help, asking if, maybe you have a different career in mind and you want to ask that person who's doing that career, you want their idea, you want their support. Um, how, yeah, what uncomfortable actions can you take? And the reason things like cold water swimming or cold showers or exercise that you don't really want to do, that is helpful because we are moving through discomfort and it builds resilience and it builds courage and it takes you out of your comfort zone. And yeah, so what uncomfortable actions do you need to take? And you can start tomorrow by taking one. And if you have any ideas that come to your head, come to your mind, and some of you have written some already that might be uncomfortable, please write in the chat. Um, so I have two little tasks for you while as I start to wrap up, and also be thinking of any questions. And I just want to run through my notes. Um, but the first little action I want to give you is um, I want you to think of 3 affirmations. So let me give you some ideas. Um, and then you think of some that really work for you. So I matter. My dreams matter. I am enough. I value myself. I show up for myself. I treat myself as valuable. I am a valuable person. I have a lot to offer. I am talented. I am gifted. I am creative. So I want you to think of 3 affirmations and pop them in your journal, share them in the chat. I'm going to give you a moment to do that. And I'm just going to make sure I look through my notes and make sure there isn't anything that I really need to tell you on top of the things that remain. Okay, my dreams matter and I value my dreams. I trust and value myself. I show up for myself. I'm good enough. I have a lot to offer. Okay, so keep those affirmations in your notebook. Share them if you haven't done as yet. Um, and then failing isn't failing, it's learning. I show up for myself. I have a lot to offer by following my dreams. I am safe to be myself. Great. Yeah, just a note on failing. I mean, anyone who is sort of interested in doing the kind of work that I do in serving people, in um, coaching or facilitating. I mean, it doesn't really matter where you want to go or what your dream is. There is no failure. There is no failure. Um, when I think about, I'm just going to stop the share for a moment. I have run successful retreats. I have run retreat. I've run a retreat that didn't make me any money, that costed me money. I have run successful workshops. I have had to cancel workshops. Um, I didn't get a book deal on my first go. I got 13 rejections. Um, I made a mess of stuff. You know, we if you think about entrepreneurs, like they do something and then it fails or doesn't go right, and then they tweak it and they learn from it and then they adapt it and then they change it. And often we're waiting for the perfect idea of what we should be doing with our lives, or what we want it fully honed and we want it perfect and we want to be in control, and that's not how it works. And when we go out, when we put ourselves out into the world and do things, we learn, and I learn all the time. um I learn all the time. So it's about doing it. It's about doing it in a walking towards the fire in a different condition to how you were first burned. Um, so I hold space for all my emotions. My emotions are all welcome, and I hold and see myself with love. I am strong. My dreams matter. I have a lot to offer. Thank you so much for sharing those. So now what I would like you to do is I'd like you to share 3 actions. You might not be able to think of them immediately. You might think of one immediately, but I'd like you to share 3 actions that back up those affirmations. So if you look at your affirmation and if it says, I show up for myself, what is the action associated with that affirmation? Because a lot of people talk about affirmations and, they sound really nice, but they mean nothing unless supported by action. So my dreams matter. What is the action that you would take in association with that affirmation? My dreams matter. My action is tomorrow morning, 2 hours, novel writing, no distraction, no emails, no WhatsApps. My needs matter. My action is to spend an hour preparing nutritious food. So, what are your actions? And it could be, I'm going to send an email to that person about a career change, or I'm going to spend an hour exploring this idea that I have, or I'm going to do 20 minutes of meditation to feel my feelings, if your feelings matter. If that is your affirmation, obviously your feelings matter. Um, and you know, you might want to think about the three actions that you can take this month, this week, this month towards to move you closer towards your dreams, to relight that fire. So, so let me just see. Um, prioritizing self-care, getting enough sleep, getting outside daily, time for self-care, plan things to look forward to. Great. And you know, with your actions, how are how are you going to be accountable to yourself? How are you going to keep your promise to yourself? What do you need in place? Do not underestimate the power of distraction and being pulled in all directions and struggling to follow through. Um, so, what accountability do you need? What accountability do you need? So, I am going to recap. We might go a little bit over if you need to go. I totally understand. I want to leave space for questions. I'd like to recap, leave space for questions, and then tell you a little bit about how I can support you. Actually, I'll do that while you're thinking of any questions. Um, but affirmations. So really knowing that your needs matter, that your dreams matter, but it isn't enough to say that. You want to be taking the action. And then in order to take the action, you might need some accountability. You might need some support. Um, and yeah, from what's just been shared in the chat about tiny daily checklist, I'm going to start a monthly goal setting process to see how I have done the previous month, all very kind and gentle. So yeah, just I was when I was preparing for this workshop, I was thinking about a gentle action plan, GAP, a gentle action plan, because we want to treat ourselves with self-love, self-compassion, with gentleness. We don't want to drive ourselves into the ground. We don't want to push ourselves to the limit. We don't want to burn out. So we want a gentle action plan. And I also have an acronym I've used on previous workshops, which is the self-worth action plan swap. So you swap something that isn't good for you for something that is good for you. Self-worth action plan. So you might want to think about your self-worth action plan, what you can swap out and what you'd like to swap in. So let me just recap. So to relight your fire, you want to get clarity on your fire. And you do that through connecting with yourself, connecting with your feelings, spending time in meditation, spending time journaling, talking to people, sharing with people, writing things down, letting other people read them, like being, like getting it out into the open. I want to do this. This is what I want to do. And notice your energy. I notice this with my coaching clients, you know, when we're on a call and they're talking about this job that they do, and their energy's down like this. And then they talk about this idea that they've got or this dream that they've got, and their energy is up and they're feeling bright and determined. Notice your energy and go towards where that energy is alive, where that light is. So you want to identify your fire. You want to be really clear, and this is the deep subconscious work. You want to be really clear on the blocks, not just the practical ones, time, energy, money, because for me, they are all connected to the deeper ones, the subconscious ones, the fear, the avoidance, the waiting for the parent to do their job, the fantasy of a carefree life, the fantasy of it all being perfect. So that comes from our childhoods. So we want to be really aware of the things that look like distraction or the things that tell us that we must do them immediately that seem more important. You want to ask yourself, is this avoidance? Is this distraction? Is this my fear? You want to look at those deeper blocks, the inner child who is afraid of being seen, of being visible, of taking a chance, of running out of money. You want to soothe her and reparent her. And you want to get really clear on your affirmations and your actions, and then take those actions and be accountable to yourself, perhaps to others. And you want to think about January the 5th, 2025, 6, January the 5th, 2026. Where do you want to be? What would you feel sad about if you haven't made it happen? And then work backwards. Work backwards. So to not be sad about this thing not happening. In January, I need to do this. In February, I need to do this. In March, I need to do this. Create a loving action plan, a gentle action plan. Because, we are precious beings. We are vulnerable beings. We are also fiery and determined and creative and intelligent. And I know many of you really well, and those I don't know well, I'm pretty sure you all fit into those categories. And you deserve a passionate, fulfilling life. So I'm going to take questions. I just want to share briefly a few things. For those of you who mentioned the relationship, being alone, wanting self-love and finding love, I have a workshop on Tuesday. I know some of you are coming already at 5 on how to find healthy love. My coaching and my midlife mentoring is available. So I do relationship coaching and midlife mentoring, and many people come for both. So I will pop a link to my discovery. I have free discovery calls that you can join. I'll pop a link to those in the chat and also on the follow-up email with the recording. I do have a group love coaching program. The doors are reopening in January. That's where you work in a small group of women who are on the same journey. And I'd love you to, I'm going to be offering more workshops this year. And I will have a really attractive offer at the beginning later this month or early next month. I'd love you to join me on Substack if you're not already there, because I'm going to be running my workshops via Substack, the paid workshops like this one. And I will have a founder's offer at the beginning that you can join for a really low cost. So you can join all the workshops. Yeah. And so questions, I'll just put that Substack back up. I'm not sure if you can, if it works from the screen, but I thought I'd give it a go using the QR code. I will put everything in the follow-up email. But I was also, I can also run an accountability call for those of you who have taken this workshop in February, in early February. Um, the group program starts on the 20th of January. I can send you details about that. Let me stop sharing now. I can put some of these links in the chat. So if you have any questions, I'm sorry I've run over it a little bit. Pop them in the chat. I'll give you a few minutes to do that. And then I will also switch the recording off. And anyone who has any questions that you want to ask live, you're welcome to do that. You're welcome to put on your voice and ask the question now, but it will be recorded. So yes, the group love coaching program starts. The doors reopen on January the 20th. Thank you, Ellie, about the Sunday workshops. I don't normally work on Sundays, as many of you know. I thought I'd try this as an experiment at the start of the year. I know it works for some people. Might have been a bit early in the year for some people. Okay, Dee, I will be in touch. And you can, for clients who are new to me, you can book a free discovery call. If you know me already, just pop me an email and we can I can see how I can meet your needs. Does anyone have any questions about relighting your fire? About what we've talked about today, about overcoming your fears, overcoming procrastination. Okay, find it very easy to slip into survival mode rather than thrive mode. Absolutely. Great question. Yeah, just before I answer that, if you have any feedback about the workshop, if you've enjoyed it, if you can post that in the chat as well, that would be really helpful. If you have anything that you wanted me to speak about that I didn't, there will be a recording for Tuesday. Yeah, if you can't join live. Ellie, just back to your question. Survival mode. Just so everyone else is clear about what survival mode might look like, you might want to share, Ellie, what it looks like for you. For me, survival mode looks like short breaths. I might not even notice that I've got a short breath. I might be eating on the run. I'm not taking care of myself. I'm adrenalized. I'm working too hard. I'm not taking time and space for myself. I'm not grounded. I'm not feeling any peace. I feel like I'm acting like I am in danger. And, I think doing the opposite of those things that I've just described. So longer breaths, longer breaths. So I was just mentioned that. Thank you for that comment about my workshops. I was doing a meditation this morning about the vagus nerve, and I don't want to take up too much time, but look it up. But one way to, so the vagus nerve controls our flight and fight. So read about that. But one simple exercise you can do is you can keep your head face forward, but move your eye gaze to the right for 30 seconds. Move your eye gaze to the left for 30 seconds. And that actively calms your nervous system. So what we want to do is calm the nervous system. So when the out breath is longer than the in breath, that automatically calms the nervous system. So do it now with me. Breathe in. And then do a really long out breath. That calms the nervous system. I should have done a few of those at the start of the workshop. I'm just going to blow out my candle. Grounding, and really finding out what is going on. What is going on? What am I afraid of? What's the fear? Why am I activated? So in survival mode, we are activated. We feel like we're in danger. What is triggered? So breathing, grounding, exercise, nature, cold shower, cup of tea, um, anything that brings you back into your body. Havening, which involves that sort of stroking your arms, stroking your tummy. Um, yeah, I have a tuning fork, which is great for the nervous system. So, yeah, I hope that's helpful. There's lots of other ideas I could give you, but I'm aware of the time. So, yeah, thank you. Aware that yeah, it's helpful to know that other people have challenges. I'm going to switch the recording off. If you're watching on recording, thank you so much for watching. I hope you took the time to do the exercises, and please see all the links in the email. And if you are watching live, you will also receive the recording. So look, you can watch it again. But thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming. I appreciate you being here on Sunday. I appreciate your participation. And thank you for supporting my work and supporting me to keep my fire lit, because that's so important. So let me stop recording. Bye. Stay here if you're live.